I thought love was a feeling, like you feel it. It's evolved, and now I don't believe that anymore. Like, love is not a mere feeling. To me, now love is a choice. It's not just about feeling. Sometimes, whatever you feel might be inconsistent. Like, so let's say one day you wake up, you're angry, one day you wake up, you're sad. The way you look at that person would be different. Let's say you went to a movie, you saw a romantic movie, and then suddenly you get all these jitters, like your dopamine levels are high, and then you're full of love for that person. So feelings change, feelings evolve, they don't stay the same. So how do people stay in love? That's a choice.
A Sankarshan Joshi trip.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Sankarshan Joshi trip. This is going to be a solo episode. If you don't know what that is, this is a part of the podcast where I ask a question on my Instagram and I share the responses and my thoughts on those responses in the episode. So, the question for today's episode is, how would you define love? That's what I asked on my Instagram, and the responses I've received are pretty amazing. So, I've been thinking about love a lot recently because my sister got married. So, I've been thinking about love a lot throughout my life. So, when I was a kid, I was fascinated by this concept or topic love. Like, what is it? Like, when someone says they love someone, how exactly do they feel and how do they know that they love that person? So I was very intrigued by it, and I was super fascinated, and I always gravitated towards romantic movies because I was influenced a lot by movies and art. When I saw a movie or when I read a poem, if they talked about love, I would believe whatever I saw is love. So if I watched a movie and if the protagonist feels a certain way and they say that they're in love, then I'd be like, yes, this is love. And I go read something somewhere and they say that is what love is, and I'll be like, yes, this is love. So anything that I saw or anything someone says, whatever love is, right? I would believe that. And eventually I found my own definition, and that definition kept evolving. So I kept redefining my definition of love. So when I was a kid, I thought love was a feeling, like you feel it, like it's feelings, and it's evolved, and now I don't believe that anymore. Like, love is not a mere feeling. There's a lot of dimension, there are a lot of layers, and to me, now love is a choice. It's not just about feeling. I mean, yes, you're attracted to that person. Yes, you have feelings for that person. They make you happy or whatever. But love is a choice. So it is a choice to do better things. It's a choice to say better things, to make the other person happy, empowered, or any positive feeling, right? Because sometimes whatever you feel might be inconsistent. Like, so let's say one day you wake up, you're angry, one day you wake up, you're sad. The way you look at that person would be different. And let's say you went to a movie, you saw a romantic movie, and then suddenly you get all these jitters, like your dopamine levels are high, and then you're in full of love for that person. So feelings change, feelings evolve, they don't stay the same. So how do people stay in love? That's a choice. So it's it's to do better. Like, I'm trying to find the right word into how I would want to express my thoughts. That's the reason why I procrastinated this episode a lot, because I had these very strong thoughts in my head, And I was trying to piece things, trying to, like, I thought I will struggle to articulate. And then I was like, screw it, I'm anyways gonna do an episode. Can't procrastinate a lot. So throughout this episode, by reading out the responses, I am gonna piece my thoughts and I'll try to articulate things better. So, yes, now let's read the first response. Sharon Mary underscores defines love as sacrificial. Uh, yes, you will have to sacrifice your needs or what you want to empower or to make the other person happy. But in that process, you should not sacrifice who you are. So, the word sacrifice, right? Like, I was thinking about this a lot. Like, when I read this response, right, my mind went in multiple directions. So, first, let's talk about relationship. Okay, like you'll have to sacrifice certain things. That is love, and that's how Sharon Mary defines it. One of my friend told this story. So she was really scared about growing out of love for someone, so that kept her from entering into any relationship for a really long time. So she said one of their neighbors who she thought were like ideal couple are married for like a decade, and then eventually they are parting ways. And they started blaming each other. And she, my friend, she thought if a perfect couple like them, if they grew apart, if they were out of love after a decade of marriage, then she started freaking out. And the reason was that they started blaming each other for stuffs that should be their responsibility. Let me give you guys an example. So in that couple, the lady wanted to go to abroad and work there, and this dude didn't want to go there. So she was like, okay, she sacrificed that and she stayed with him. And then now she blames him for not going abroad. Like, if there, like, whatever failures that she's facing in her career, she's blaming him for that because she sacrificed a certain thing for him. And the thing is, you sacrifice something really important to you for the person that you love, okay, and the other person got happy, you're like, okay, you prioritize the other person's happiness over your own happiness and you sacrifice certain thing, okay. And then how long do you think you can do that? So let's say you do that again and you're like, yes, my partner is happy, and you get happy. And then you sacrifice. Eventually, you're gonna lose. So let's say you like watching movie and your partner likes to go out, eat food. What would you do? So sure, someone has to prioritize someone else's happiness, right? Someone has to sacrifice. Okay. But eventually you guys are spending time together, right? That is for the greater good. So whatever sacrifice that you do should empower the relationship. It should not be a detriment to your own happiness. So it gets toxic. So when you start blaming someone else for all your failures, it's a never ending list because you fail a lot in your life and you always want a scapegoat, right? Like, you always want one person to blame. Like, there is always a villain in any story and it's all that person's fault. So to someone, politicians are the villains, and anything that goes wrong in this entire world, it's politicians' fault. And to someone, the rich people are the problem. So anything, all the poverty, all the people who died of starvation, the rich people are the problem. It's much more easier, right, when there is one villain and you get to put through all their hate. You can, like, you collectively project all that hate to that person. It's very easy. But life is not that easy. It's complex, it's layered. Human beings are complex, human relationships are layered. So yeah. And I think in that sense, how much are you sacrificing? And to you certain things are important, right? How can you not sacrifice on things that are important to you and still make things even in the relationship. So it is okay to expect your partner to sacrifice on certain things, like you can request them, or sometimes you sacrifice and sometimes the other person sacrifice, and that's how a relationship grows, right? So yeah, defining love as sacrificial is going too far, I'd say, for Sharon Mary. It's a part of any relationship, not just uh, love or romantic relationships. So yeah, the other aspect of sacrifice is when you love yourself, you sacrifice certain things because it's gonna benefit you. So let me give you guys an example. Let's say you like food, eating sugary, starchy, high carb, high sugar foods, and you say no to it because you love yourself. So let me give you guys another example. Let's take kids. Let's say you have a kid and your kid loves candies, and when you give candies to your kids, they're happy. Do you keep giving candies to your kids every time they ask them? No, right? No, because you love them. So self love requires sacrifice because you love yourself. You have to sacrifice certain traits, certain things, certain behaviors for the overall betterment of yourself. If you want to get fit, if you want to get healthy, you will have to sacrifice on certain foods. So yeah, like that, for this answer, sacrifice, like love is a sacrifice, for this answer, these were the dimensions that my mind was going, and I was blown away because it's a very underrated thing, especially in the self love uh, area. So we are in this era where self love has become something, just something to justify your laziness. And so people say love the way you are, it's okay the way you are, right? Let's say you're fat, you're obese, and you say yes, I'm okay the way I am. But the thing is, if you love yourself, you would not be like that. Let's say you detach from yourself and you see yourself as two different people. How would you react to your own self? Like being obese, unhealthy, is that self love? Like, if you detach from your own self and you look at that, you want that person to be happy, right? Like, that's what love is. If you love yourself, you would want the person to be happy and you want the person to be healthy. You want the person to stay fit and live for a long time. So it is not okay. Like, if you love yourself, you're not gonna be obese. Like, that is my definition. I know it's going to be controversial. You have to accept who you are, you have to accept the way you are. Acceptance is different, but I'm talking about love and self love. So in love, there is always this aspect of betterment and seeking growth. In any relationship, with yourself, with someone else, there is always this aspect of growth. Like, you should be a nourishment to your partner, like they should grow, and then you should grow around your partner, like they should be nourishment to you, but you should not drain each other's energies. Yeah, that's about it. I hope I didn't go all over the place regarding this subject, because I got too excited and I had this different thoughts on multiple aspects of this. So anyways, now let's move to another response. Thermocol soup says it's a scam. Thermocol soup defines love as a scam. I'm sure she's joking about this, but I've seen a lot of people say love as this some evil thing, like uh, Have you ever met someone who got cheated on or who had some bad experience with love, and then they just create this strong evil persona of what love is? So, I mean, it's just fascinating because when you look at Bible or when you look at any religious spiritual relics, they say love everybody, right? Like love is at the core of any religion, to love people. And we are in this era where being nihilistic, being negative, being dark uh, is cool. Like if you go look at any Netflix series and if you're watching a movie is always savior and victim. Like one person saves the other person from their misery. uh, I think being dark is glorified in movies. Like being dark, I mean like depressed, nihilistic, negative. So we all want to be mysterious, so we want to be negative because we think that in movies, if they show that a girl is attracted to a guy who's very mysterious and who's very dark, we want to be that guy because we want someone else to think about us the same way. And I think we as a generation should grow out of that, because sometimes even I like that, like movies have this very weird way of naturally glorifying something where you're not even conscious but you want to be that person. Like you want to be that character because you want to have what that person has in terms of relationship. Well, let's say romantic, like love, we want to have that. So yeah, we should grow out of that. So it's like being depressed is not cool. So yeah, I wasn't expecting this answer to take this turn, but anyways, let's move to the next response. Demigod underscore 99 underscore says love is an illusion. Thank you so much, Demigod, for this segue. I was talking about that, right? Like, love is an illusion, it seems. And I hear this from the young people, I've never seen a grown ass man talk negative things about, like something as silly as this. Like, love is an illusion, like, love is a scam, or like, love is a something dark, or love is this evil. You should never love somebody. You're gonna break your heart if you love somebody, because as you grow old you realize the importance of love. Like it's so important because when you're a kid, random people will be like, oh, you're so cute. Like random people give you attention, like random people would, like, they show love in some way. But as you grow, right, you receive less and less genuine compliments. Like you receive very less genuine feedback from people, which is empowering. So you start craving that. Like the importance, that it's not very rewarding. Let's say you're working hard at a job and you might not receive any compliment from your boss, or you might not receive any reward, but still you have to keep going. And now let's say like me doing this podcast, or uh, let's say if I don't get a lot of views, or but I've put a lot of effort, so sometimes it's not very rewarding. So you start appreciating tiny acts of kindness and tiny acts of showing love as you grow up. And when you look at people, you get like your definition, your perception on relationships, friendships, it changes, it evolves. Like you don't want to hate people anymore. Like you don't want hate in your life, or that's what at least I think. Like as I grow older, I don't want to carry a heavy burden of hating somebody. I know what it can do to me, and I've seen like people get consumed by hate. So like love, it starts, like you start appreciating and starts getting more valuable as you grow up. So our generation is trying to define love, and that is influenced a lot by the pop culture, like whatever is cool. So sometimes you look at movies and you want to have what they have. So you try to be them, like you mimic them. When you don't know what you are, you just mimic your environment, right? So I think that's what happen. Like that's what is happening with our generation as well. So I don't think love is an illusion. Love is an intangible thing, but it sure as hell exists. It's not an illusion. So demigod underscore 99 underscore put a laughing emoji next to illusion. Like I know he's being funny about it, but some people genuinely believe that. So like I said, everybody wants to blame someone for all the mishaps in their life, right? Like they need this dump, a garbage dump where they can dump everything. So yeah, now let's move to the next response. Naman underscore Bachawat. It defines love as being alive. Hmm, being alive. It's a very vague, intangible thing, like being alive. And I like this response because what, like, what do you associate with being alive? Like when I say alive, it's so bright, right? It's green, like it's growing. It's something nourishing. Like if we are alive, that means our cells are being nourished. We are growing. So we have something to nourish our body, and love should also be like that. If you guys recall on the first response, like when I was talking about in the earlier part of the podcast, I said it should be nourishing, right? Like it should not be draining. Like you your partner should help you grow. It should make you feel alive. I have s- I I really underestimated the the negative things that a toxic relationship can do. It could be friendship or it could be love. I've seen both. So I was in a toxic relationship, and that made me have like that increased my self doubt. I wasn't being very lovable to my own self. I was being very critical. I was being very negative to my own self, and that's what like an environment, like it can do that to you. And a friend of mine was in a relationship with this guy, and after they broke up, like even before she broke up, she thought of breaking up for months. She wanted to break up, but every time the topic came, he created such a huge scene that she didn't want to have that scene. So she continued just so that she can avoid that emotional outburst. She just avoided breakup. Like she's like, okay, being in this relationship is way better than going through that phase. But eventually, with this lockdown and everything, like she went back to her hometown. Like there was some physical distance between them, and eventually she broke up with him. But this dude like kept following her on Instagram, dropping messages, like creating like she started blocking the accounts, and he started creating more and more and more new accounts, texting. You should see how she feels. Uh, I met her, and then while she was expressing all like the way he made her feel uh, like an object that he can possess. She was so fearful of him. She was so she started doubting her own self. After a point of time, you believe that you don't deserve good things. When people keep saying that, like if you are in a shitty relationship, you feel like, yeah, like this is what I deserve. Like probably that's why I'm this. See, any which ways, your brain will always find a way to justify the way things are. That is a fact. And if you can't blame the other person, if you blame the other person, if it's someone else's fault, then you would make sure that it doesn't affect you, right? Like you would try to come out of that situation. But if you have no way to come out of that situation, like you just switch the table and you start believing that, you know what, you're a shitty person, that's why you're getting shitty things happening to you. And you start believing that because you want the situation to be justified, like, or else, why the hell is this happening? So recently, I talked with this person who is really close to me, and then she was ex- she was telling certain things from her past where she was being followed by people, or she was getting harassed by people, not physically, but I mean, you can, like, guys, right? Like, if you're a woman, it, like, they follow you, or all that shit happens, right? And when she was expressing that, you can literally, like, I was sensing the pain that she felt, like, like, it really hurt me. And when I was listening to her, so, like, when your brain gets into this mode of, how do I justify this shit, like, why is this happening to me? Okay, probably it's my fault, like, me being a certain way, or like me looking a certain way, it's bad, and that shit gets toxic. So you need to feel alive, like, you should be in a relationship which should make you overcome challenges, like, see, every relationship has challenge, everybody has challenge, but you need this feeling, the foundation, right? Like, it should be positive. So all the challenges that comes, it shouldn't penetrate deep enough that it's scarring. So yeah, love is alive, like, being alive, making you feel alive, like, when you're interacting with something, when you're interacting with someone, is it nourishing you, or is it draining you? Love is nourishment. So yeah, and going back to my point of choice, you choosing things that is nourishing to you and not detrimental or draining, that is up to you. So that comes back to your self love thing. What sort of circle are you in? What sort of friends are you engaging in? Sometimes you have to take hard decisions, because even though you want to hang out with friends who do a lot of alcohol or drugs, because you want that, you still need to make some hard decisions, that you need to sacrifice on certain things for you to feel alive and then grow. So it's a choice. It's a choice to do good. It's not just a mere feeling. So when you look at a person and if you feel a certain way, that's dopamine acting out. Like, that's dopamine asking you to seek it. That's what dopamine does, right? So we human beings are we have that animal instincts, caveman instincts. That is, our body has given us an incentive to reproduce because we need to exist. Any species, let's say coronavirus or anything, it needs to exist. That's why it's becoming less and less and less deadly. Because if it starts killing all the people, if it starts killing all its hosts, then it's not going to survive, right? So it's evolving to survive. So any species, that's the incentive. So for us to be alive and have more and make more of us, we need to reproduce, we need to eat, we need to uh, seek certain things, and that's what dopamine does. Like, it makes you seek certain things. So when you look at a person, you feel a certain way, that's that reproductive uh, instinct kicking in, like, that's the dopamine. It's like, I want to seek this person out, I want to build a relationship with this person out. But we are social animals, right? So we just don't reproduce. We are much more complex. We we have we think about our feelings, we think about the other person's feelings, we think a lot. So at the bottom of it, so don't really go by a mere feeling. Like, when you look at someone, you feel like you're attracted to that person, don't merely rely on that feeling. Like, in your gut, how do you feel? Do you feel safe? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel respected? Do you feel like you want to stay in this place? Is it not draining out? And you know what the most important thing is? People find other people who fill the hole, or who fill their insecurity in some way. Let's say you are insecure about how you look. Let's just say that. Let me give you guys that example. And then you find this person who gives you a lot of compliments, who say they love you, and who say you're really beautiful. and then you fall for them, and then but after some time shit gets toxic, but you are still holding on to that person because that person is a band-aid for your insecurity. Like if you are insecure about not feeling good enough, and if that person has given you compliments, you don't want that person. You want that aspect of whatever he said or whatever is done that is filling the cavity called insecurity. So yeah, that's another thing, like in love, being self-aware of what you're insecure about, like what are your problems, man. Like I think that's really really important. So when you are seeking for a person, when you want a person in your life, why do you want that person in your life? Is it because they're filling a certain insecurity in you, or is it because you really love that person and you want to do better for that person, and that person is making you feel better? That's another reason why people stay in toxic relationships, right? This insecurity aspect that I mentioned. And the moment you realize that you're insecure about something, that's why you're seeking it out, that is the solution. Like 99% of the problem is solved right then and there. So yeah, that's also another important aspect. That's also another important aspect for self love as well. Some people want to feel self love, so they're gonna be in a denial. So they're not gonna acknowledge their insecurities at all, because they want to believe that they're perfect. They want to believe that they can love themselves only when they're perfect. So people don't even acknowledge their insecurities. Every single person in the entire world is insecure about something or the other. The moment I realized this, I started feeling much better about myself, because I didn't feel this pressure to be good at everything, or to be good, or not feel of lacking something. I like when I realized that everybody in the fucking world is insecure, it made me it took a pressure, like a pressure off myself. I was like, oh, okay, cool. It is natural to be not perfect. It's natural to be uh, insecure, and that gives you a level of self acceptance. So you have to accept yourself, but you have to seek growth. So Jordan B. Peterson says you have to accept yourself, but you have to not be okay with the way you are, because that removes the aspect of growth, right? Like if you are perfect, then what are you thriving for the next few years in your life? So at least you're gonna have an incentive to thrive for something, to do better for yourself, for your partner, for someone you love, or any relationships. I'm sure my thoughts are gonna change in the future on this topic, because we're gonna encounter a lot of people. We're gonna encounter different parts of ourselves that were hidden. So I'm gonna come back again, and I'm gonna talk about love sometime in the future when my definition is redefined. So that's about it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. If you want to be a part of this Q&A, go to Instagram, look for a Sankarshan Joshi trip, and then hit follow there. So if you want to see more of me on YouTube, subscribe. If you want to hear me more on the audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, JioSaavn, Ghana, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, hit follow. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, spread love, stay happy, because you deserve it. Bye bye.
A Sankarshan Joshi trip.